say free ticket?
You're supposed to announce that? Oh.
So you either get a discounted or it's free. Good morning. Buenos días. Those are the only two languages that I know. So, thank you for coming and welcome to our presentation. My name is Sonia Soltero. I'm currently a professor at DePaul University in bilingual bicultural education, and I was a former student in Chicago Public Schools. I was also a teacher, bilingual and dual language teacher in Tucson, Arizona, many moons ago. Thank you for coming. We are going to be talking today about the Principal Consortium. We believe it's the first of its kind in the United States. It's a dual language Principal Consortium in Chicago Public Schools that was created 3 years ago. And we have 6 principals today with us, and the specialists from the Office of Language and Culture in Chicago Public Schools. At the end of the session, you will be able to get the dual language schools profiles. There are 12 of them and 5 new ones that I'll be talking about in a moment. And you can get their profiles if you're interested in each of these schools in Chicago. And you can have access to them on the dual language Cosecha website. The handout is also being passed around, so if anybody doesn't have one, you can get one. If you need one, just raise your hand and somebody will bring one to you. So we want to just share very quickly what the history of the dual language programs in Chicago has been. We've had sort of ebbs and flows of initiatives of dual language, and as perhaps many of you know, dual language is a difficult, sometimes challenging, I shouldn't say difficult, challenging program to sustain, especially at a district level because of all the changes that we have in education. So here you see, we started in 1975 in Chicago Public Schools with Inter-American Magnet School, which was a school that was founded by 2 parents who were also bilingual teachers. So we do have a very long history of dual language in Chicago. In 1998, the first CPS dual language initiative happened. And that's when there was sort of like district-wide initiative for implementing dual language, and 30 schools began at that time. There were ebbs and flows in relation to the number of these schools, these 30 schools that continued to offer the dual language program. So in 2007, the Board of Education convened the Bilingual Education and World Language Commission. We affectionately call it the Buell Commission and the Buell Report that Claudia is briefly going to just talk about and show you that we are happy to share with you as well. In 2008, from that Buell Commission, which was sort of sanctioned by the Board of Education at the highest levels and by the mayor of Chicago at the time, from that initiative, we received funds from several foundations to begin the dual language initiative. And then these 12 schools that we're going to talk about today began dual language in Chicago. In 2012, the dual language initiative was also continued to be funded by the Chicago Community Trust. And in 2016, this year, we added 5 new schools. So here you see the 17 schools. These are the original 12 schools that have been supported by the Chicago Public Schools Office of Language and Culture. And 6 of these schools are represented by the principals that you'll get to know in a moment. Here are the 5 new schools, and we have principals Several of the principals are here, I think, from those new schools that are starting the planning stage this year. And just very quickly to give you a sense, 2 of these 17 schools are magnet schools. 3 of them are implementing whole language, dual language. All of them are doing 80-20. One of the 5 new schools is actually going to be doing 50-50 for reasons that pertain to their particular characteristics. All are Spanish-English, so we have the largest population of Polish outside of Poland, but we don't have a Polish dual yet. And we have both one-way and two-way dual language programs. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues who will be talking about the essential elements.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Javier. I'm one of the principals, and our colleagues. Our colleagues and I will be discussing the essential components of the consortium of principles. We'll be highlighting the most important components that have been really important in our development of the consortium and also having successful and yet challenging dual language programs in each of our schools. So the first bullet that you have there is what it was essential. One of the things we learned was that we wanted to ensure that we have somebody who was going to be in charge of the implementation and the sustainability of the dual language program in each of our school. So we're very grateful that the district sponsor point have position of a dual language coordinator that manages all the different kind of programs that our colleagues will be discussing in a minute. And also schools have an option to provide the other 0.5 position of the dual language coordinator. Or sometimes some schools, they share the dual language coordinator depending how far away the dual language schools are. So my colleague Olympia will continue discussing the other main components of the dual language initiative.
Good morning. My name is Olympia Baena, and as Javier just said, in addition to the dual language coordination position that definitely provides support at the school level, we have a dual language manager at the district level, Claudia Solano over there. Her role is to implement and sustain dual language programs at the district level. So how this work has happened in the last years is through professional learning. Teachers, principals, dual language coordinators have had the opportunity to get together and to work on curriculum alignment plans. Dual language coordinators, they meet constantly throughout the school year, so they have opportunities just to keep working and their learning regarding dual language education. Principals, we are part of that effort. We started as a professional learning community, and because of the kind of work that has been happening, now we are CPS, Dual Language Principal Consortium. Last year, as a result of our partnership with New Mexico, we started implementing visitas. The dual language schools, we visit each other. We are able to use the visitas protocol that we were shown by New Mexico. So we learn about the practices regarding dual language. In this endeavor, teachers and administrators, we all participate as learners. I think it's something that is also important to highlight as one essential element of this dual language initiative in the Chicago Public Schools is the creation of pathways for our students to get the Illinois seal of biliteracy. It is so important for us, and it's a goal, that students at the end of high school, they get this seal of biliteracy and that the number grows every year.
Another important component in our initiative was how do we leverage our dual language teachers in schools, and therefore we created, a dual language literacy team was created across all the different dual language schools, as well as the manager from the CPS, Chicago Public School Dual Language. And this is some of the curricula that has been developed, and it has been essential for us as we embrace other schools that want to be dual language. This is something that in the consortium of principals, we thought that it was something that it needed to be thought carefully, and there needed to be ready for us so that we can continue implementing high-level dual language programs. And also, as our new schools are becoming part of the dual language initiative, Chicago Public Schools, that we have something for them. So the first one is the curriculum. So we base our curriculum on units, and we start backwards design, and it is guided by teachers across the 12 original dual language schools, and then also a curriculum map that it was across also the different grade levels. So out of that, as you will be able to see, and somebody will explain later, we have K-3 bilingual units, and we also have for the upper grades, or in addition to the K-5 ESL framework. Somebody will be describing in more detail. The second component that we thought it was essential, especially in these years of accountability, was assessment. Chicago Public Schools has been assessing all schools, only mostly in English. We do have NW8 in Spanish for math, but not for reading. But we as a consortium, we wanted to make sure that Spanish was at the same level as English, and we wanted to demonstrate that the quality of Spanish that we were teaching our students is a high level. And so we wanted to make sure that not only our students, but also our parents, our community members, they knew that our Spanish level was at the level they needed to be, so that our students can be global competitors in the world when they graduate from a dual language program. So out of that need, we have been implementing a pilot we selected last, so that our students are assessing the L1 Spanish, in this instance for the dual language programs. And it's an opportunity because our system, our district is transitioning right now in the assessment. They're gonna not test in W8. So this is an opportunity for us as a consortium in sitting down at the decision making table that we wanted Spanish to be part of that new kind of initiative from the district. So my colleague will continue talking about the other initiatives that we have had.
Yes, in this case, I'm going to ask Claudia. As you can see, these efforts is not one person, it's all stakeholders involved. So Claudia is going to be talking about the Spanish literacy framework, and after that, Dr. Soltero is going to talk about another resource. So, Claudia.
Good morning, everyone. As they mentioned, I work with the Office of Language and Cultural Education, and we are the office that oversees all of the bilingual programs in Chicago Public Schools. And we work very closely with the group of principals. I'm the dual language specialist for CPS, and our office develops the tools that supports the schools in our district. So one of the tools that was developed just this past year was the Spanish literacy framework. And as one of the components of the tools it's a skills progression that makes recommendations as to how the standards are progressing, and it has a list of units by grade levels, and it really helps the teachers at the various grade levels, and our dual language teachers are using this for instructional purposes. And we, as a family, a community of learners, rely a lot on the dual language coordinators and teachers to come and help us put some of our tools that go out to the district. So for those of you that have communities out there of dual language coordinators or teachers, I will tell you that as a district, we are blessed in many ways to have them and partner with them so that we can then branch out all of that wealth of knowledge and produce tools such as this one to also help our transitional bilingual programs and continue to create other materials that are of great support for other programs in our district.
Thank you, Claudia. The next resource that we wanted to share with you, it's something that just hot off the presses, is the K-5 English as a Second Language framework that teachers were clamoring for, because we do have the WIDA standards and we have the MPIs, but there was really a gap in providing sort of a scope and sequence of language objectives. So we created this, and it looks like this. So it's a little thick, but it's color-coded, which we like color coding. It's really based on the Common Core Skills progression by English language proficiency level. So we extrapolated from the Common Core, and then we inputted that into the K-5 grade band, and according to language proficiency level of the students and what they're supposed to need to know at each grade level. There are also in here sample expanded model performance indicators. I know you can't really see the table of contents. And there are sample units from kindergarten to 5th grade that incorporates, they're based on the social studies, Chicago Public Schools curriculum, and they incorporate these language progressions, incorporate modifications, incorporate English as a second language strategies that pertain to different language proficiency levels. And then we have some appendixes that are really very helpful. And I believe these resources will be available to you somehow. At the end of this session, we're providing in the handout our contact information if you're interested in these resources. And we have one last resource that we want to share with you, and that's the Latino and Latino Studies curriculum.
Thank you. So the other resource that we have is the Latino and Latin American Studies curriculum, and it is important to note that the vast majority of the student population in Chicago Public Schools is Hispanic, is Latino, Spanish-speaking students. I think we're about 48%. So this collaboration of the curriculum is for having the students understanding, and also our teaching faculty, of the different cultures and history contributions of the people of Latin America. And we also wanted to ensure that not only reading teachers, but all teachers, including physical education or health teachers, that they have access to some kind of curriculum that is aligned to the Common Core state standards, so that they can teach their students of their heritage and also the contribution of their people from the past, and so they can take pride in it. It was instrumental to highlight the 3 universal themes in this curriculum, and that was culture, dignity, and identity. It was very intentional, so that our students are proud of their culture. They know that their dignity is treasured by the past heritage that the other people have left them, and understand themselves better, and also their place in the universe by the identity. And also it is important, it was an ambitious endeavor from Chicago Public Schools that the curriculum is K through 10th grade. And there are simple units, they are available not only for the dual language or bilingual program teachers, but for all teachers throughout the district. So the goal was that since the majority of our students are English learners, about 48%, that our teachers across the district have this kind of resource to continue teaching the history and culture of their own students. They might have a couple of students in their schools, but there was something available for them. So as you can see, Chicago Public Schools has invested a lot in the last 10 years or so in bringing and creating curriculum that is going to represent the majority of the students that we have. And then also embracing the other curricula that we have, in particular for a dual language program. So my colleague will continue speaking a little bit more of the leadership that has been investing for the Consortium of Principals. Thank you.
Buenos dias. I'm Ted Johnson, the principal of Volta Elementary School in Chicago. And just a quick piece of trivia before I continue with my presentation. The singer-songwriter Steve Goodman, you know, City of New Orleans, Go Cubs Go, you've heard of him? He graduated from Volta Elementary School. long before dual language was ever thought of, but still part of our claim to fame. It's almost cliche because it's been said so many times, but nonetheless it's very important, so I'm going to say it again. No initiative, no program can succeed unless leadership is centrally involved in that program and in that initiative. And that's been the case with our dual language collaboration, our dual language initiative also. And when I speak of leadership, I speak of leadership at all levels, at district level, at school level, the principal, and at school level also, and most importantly, the teacher leadership that's developed. When a school in Chicago decides to become part of this dual language initiative, the schools, there's an understanding that this is going to be a long-term commitment. And again, the commitment is made by the principal to the district. It's also made by the other stakeholders at the school level as we make the decision to move into this partnership. Teachers make that commitment, as well as parents and other stakeholders, community members at the school level. As you can see, we have listed here a number of the different components of that commitment, what's involved to be fully vested in the dual language program, the dual language initiative. The first part is the participation in professional development that takes place at the school level as well as the district level. And you can see that there's many ways that the professional development looks. I mean, it could be by going to conferences, but it can be also through school visits and observations within our own schools with teacher colleagues observing in each other's classrooms. The commitment also involves the allocation of resources for the program. At the beginning of our dual language initiative, we received a lot of financial resources and support from the district level, and that helped us to get things going. But as things tighten up, we realized that if we were really serious about this and we wanted to sustain the development of our program, at the school level, school leaders had to take on more responsibility for providing these resources. So again, that commitment comes from the school leader that in developing this program, which is core instruction in our schools, we have to make sure that the resources of time and finances are available to make sure that it's successful and sustained throughout time. We also commit to establishing and supporting a dual language leadership team. In my school, the dual language leadership team are all teachers who participate in the dual language program. They all meet to participate in the activities of the dual language leadership team. And then when it's time for somebody to participate at the district level, the team has selected representatives from the various, the 3 grade clusters to participate in the district level and bring back information from those meetings. We also commit to implementing the dual language program plan that has been developed by the collaborative, by the district level Office of Language and Culture. There are certain components of that that we want to make sure are constant in all schools. And most importantly, we want to make sure that all of our stakeholders are fully informed of what the program involves. So that means that we want to not only educate the professional staff in the school, but make sure that the parents and guardians of our students also know exactly what the program involves so that they can fully participate in it also. The Dual Language Principal Consortium is old and it's new at the same time. When the Dual Language Initiative first started, as a beginning, principals started out by meeting and reading the literature, talking about what needed to be present in our programs, sharing successes and challenges as was going on. And as our numbers grew and we continued to meet, we realized that we were all sharing similar needs and similar challenges. So in the last few years, we formalized our partnership in calling it a consortium. And that consortium continues with the the work of professional learning, making sure that we stay current in dual language, but it also includes an element of advocacy, where we work together, knowing what our challenges are, and as a group, advocating for those our needs at the district level, because we've realized that we're much more effective advocating as a group than advocating individually. So again, we look at, we have, as I mentioned, we have meetings on a regular basis as the principal consortium. We see the topics of our discussions, and again, it talks about nuts and bolts things that we're doing at our school, like curriculum planning and the action plan for our dual leadership team. But then again, it moves into the advocacy when we as a group just wrote our own position statement. What is it that we stand for as dual language schools and dual language leaders, and what do we need as a result of that? We also, as a consortium, see the need to have quality teachers in order to provide a quality program. So we've looked at the challenge of recruiting those quality teachers for our programs. Also we have, for the consortium, funding for the different conferences that we participate in. Some of that funding comes from the district level, and also at the school level, we commit to providing some of that funding also in some of the conferences that we participate in yearly. In order to stay current and vibrant in the position, we realized also as a consortium that our networking has to move beyond the boundaries of our district. So we have developed partnerships outside of our district. Number one being Dual Language of New Mexico. Since our first group of 5 schools got together, since that time, every year, there has been representatives from Chicago's dual language programs participating in La Cosecha. This has been a valuable part in our formation as a dual language consortium in Chicago. We also have a partnership with DePaul University and Dr. Soltero, who works with us more closely in providing these elements and ongoing professional development, as well as school visits, mentoring and coaching by making classroom visits. Oh, too close? Sorry. And again, we have another partner who is in the state of Illinois, the Illinois Resource Center, which funded by the state of Illinois, but they have provided, especially for the 5 initial schools, provided some of our initial dual language professional development, Dual Language 101. All of the schools of the initial 5 participated in that, and we still get ongoing support from Karen and Cheryl in the Illinois Resource Center. And continuing with professional development, as we move forward, we recognize the need to continually build the capacity of leadership at all levels, district, school, and teachers, through continuing professional development. We're never going to be at the top of our game. We always want to improve ourselves. So we continue with professional development and all forms, as you can see here. We continue adding partnerships to our list. So in addition to the 3 that were listed on the previous slide, you can see other partnerships that we have that have in some way contributed to our professional development as a consortium. And we continue to meet as leaders quarterly. We have district meetings with the Office of Language and Culture for planning and collaborating, coming up with the resources that we need at our school. And at this time, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Tamara so she can share some of those specific artifacts that have been created through the collaboration on Saturdays.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Tamara Witzel. I have the pleasure of sharing with you some of the artifacts that are created, as Ted mentioned, collaboratively during those Saturday sessions and also during our dual language leadership team meetings at the school level. All of the documents are created by teachers at our school in particular, but all of the schools work on these similar documents. So the first one is a curriculum plan. For me, it's kind of hard to see, but what you see is what we did from K through 8 is added the elements that are present, and we color-coded them. Things that are in green are things that are done in English, in blue they're in Spanish, and in pink they're done in both languages. And we looked at the language block, the reading block, the writing block, content-based, so that would be social studies, science, and then any of the specials. So that when you look at our school and we look across the grades, we have a way of looking at what we're doing at each of the grade levels. And we can update it year to year, add to it, tweak it. But again, it's not unique to our school. All of the schools that are part of the program are doing a curriculum plan. The next one is our dual language action plan. And each year we create an action plan. We identify a problem, look at solutions, look at action steps, look at the people who are responsible for it, create a projection date, and it can vary from year to year. We use the CAL strands that are identified, and the idea is that you're not picking something necessarily in each of the strands, but that you're picking, I think, 2 to 3 of them, and then really focusing on them. So one of the things that we focused on, for example, last year was really increasing the opportunities for our students to experience Spanish with our families and parents. So we developed a movie night once a month, and so we do Spanish movies in the evening, invite all of our families, and then we take an opportunity to share dual language program, share the challenges, share the things that are good about our program, and then everyone stays and watches a movie. Well, our last one was the Las Momias de Guanajuato, and we've done El Chavo de Ocho, the cartoons, a number of them. We did Frozen in Spanish, just a lot of those kinds of things. So we did that last year, and we're continuing that again this year. Just an example. The final example I'm sharing with you is our dual language parent compact or contract. So when students enroll in our school is a neighborhood school. If you live in our boundary area, you come to our school. And so we want to make sure that our parents are acutely aware of the things that we're committed to and the ways in which they can support their students developing in both languages. So we use the contract to go over the elements that we feel are very important, and then ask for them to sign, ask for students to sign that, and then we renew that every year with our parents and families. We also use this document every year when we do parent education to make sure, again, that those elements that we feel are important and we feel that parents can support us and their students with become kind of part of the language that they use and part of the language that we use, and we're explicit about stating those things. So again, these documents aren't unique to our school. They are unique to our school in that we create them, but each of the schools, that's part of the expectations that we have of each other and the district has of us as dual language schools. So now we'll be sharing some challenges and things we do collectively.
Buenos días, Antonio Acevedo. So, as you know, those of you who are in the field of dual language, many times our schools, our programs, is that square peg, they're always trying to stick in a round hole, and so many times accountability systems don't really work well for, students who are in dual language programs, for schools implementing dual language. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of those. And at the end, my colleague will share some of the ways we've addressed the challenges too. So there's hope, there's always hope. And so the first big issue is assessing dual language students, using English-only norms. Schools in Chicago are rated on a policy, the school quality ratings policy, and is very heavy on data from the NWA MAP in reading and math. They look at both progress and attainment, but even for ELs that aren't in dual language programs, that are in TBE programs, they never compare groups of students, one type of program to groups of students in a similar program. It's always looked at nationally. So many times, results don't show how well our students are doing in the programs. And although the NWA map in math is available in Spanish, the district does still require that once an ELL attains a certain proficiency level on Access, they have to take it in English, even though they could take it in Spanish, but that's how the policy is set up right now. First and second language development. So for ELLs, obviously every state that has ELs and has to comply with Title III mandates have different ways to assess students in English language development. So Illinois is a WIDA state, so we use the Access. So that is available for our ELs in dual language programs. However, there is no assessment that we use to assess Spanish language development, either for the non-ELs or for the balanced bilinguals, et cetera, or for even the ELs for whom Spanish is their first language, but we're not really assessing them to see how they're developing in language. Content learning, so the assessments, once again, for reading and math, with the exception of the NWA MAP, that's in Spanish, they're in English. Illinois is also a PARC state, so the math on PARC is available in Spanish, so that is one good thing that we see. So our ELs can take the math PARC in Spanish. It's only, I think, the second or third time they'll be doing that, so we haven't really sat down to really look at that data. Appropriate assessments in Spanish language and literacy, specifically as students move up at the primary level. Different schools use different type of programs. Many of us use the Fontes and Penel benchmark assessment system in Spanish. So we do track literacy at the primary level in English and Spanish. Beyond that, it's very difficult. One thing that we use at Whittier is the Ensayo de Desarrollo de Lectura, the EDL2, which is the Spanish version of DRA. So that's a way we can try to get a Spanish reading level past third or fourth grade all the way up through 8th grade. But that's not uniform throughout the districts, not supported. Program evaluation and needs assessment. So as Tamara talked about, every school does have a dual language leadership team, and they use the dual language action plan as a way to self-assess, to set goals, to identify areas that they want to work on from year to year. So that's kind of done in-house as well. Once again, we have high-stakes standardized tests in English. I'm not going to go there again, but obviously that's something that's on our mind a lot. And then finally, related to this, there is also a promotion policy for all students in CPS at 3rd, 6th, and 8th grade. And ELs, although ELs, depending on what level they're at, they may or may not have to take the NWA. So the NWA results are not used for promotion determination if the student is an English learner, either in a TBE program or a dual language program. However, we do have some non-ELs, mostly English dominant students who are in 80-20 model dual language programs that are receiving, majority of the instruction in Spanish, and they are held to the, promotion policy cut score on the NWA when, many times, we don't think that's fair because, they're in a different type of program, and as we know, dual language outcomes, results we don't see toward the end of the program, toward the end of their elementary up into middle school years. So those are some of the challenges we've been facing in assessment and evaluation. Funding and workforce, and I think this is probably universal in all schools. So qualified bilingual teachers, we do have many universities that prepare students to be bilingual teachers. In Illinois, there's a bilingual endorsement, ESL endorsement, so many programs offer that. But a specific endorsement in dual language does not exist in Illinois, and there are universities that have started developing programs that will prepare bilingual teachers to teach within a dual language setting, which is very different than in a transitional setting. Obviously at the middle school level with content endorsements, in math, science, social studies, et cetera, we have to find teachers who have both the content endorsement and the bilingual approval and ESL as well. I talked a little bit about the third bullet. We do have some students that have programs that have begun preparing students for, or teachers for dual language programs. Obviously, coursework, ongoing coursework is always something that's important. One of my colleagues talked about the Illinois Resource Center. That's a place in Illinois where teachers can get continuing development. Many times other universities partner with schools and provide cohorts, programs within the schools, et cetera, so we take advantage of those. And then the funding for the dual language coach. So, that funding primarily, I believe, comes from Title III funds, which is federal funds. And, considering what happened a couple of days ago, we don't know how the federal government may continue supporting, bilingual or anything. And I'm not going to go any further there because that was a rough night a couple of nights ago. Instructional materials in both languages. I think at the primary level, there's a lot of good quality material, but once we get up into intermediate and upper grades in middle school, that is where there's, a little bit of a challenge finding the, materials to native language Spanish, in this case, language materials that are quality. Another thing about Chicago, it is a big district, the third largest in the country, and so it's broken down into what are basically sub-districts, which they call networks. And so all our schools, some of us are in the same networks, but most of us are spread out all over the city in different parts of the city in different networks. And sometimes the schools are grouped, they have common demographics, based on neighborhoods, but sometimes they're very different. And since the majority of the programs for ELs in CPS are transitional programs, many times we are grouped in with other schools that run transitional programs, and the type of professional development and the support that the principals and the teachers receive from the network is geared more toward students in transitional type programs. So that becomes a problem when, sometimes things contradict each other, in fact. And so depending on the network chief that you have, if that person is knowledgeable about bilingual and about dual language, then in some cases it'd be easier for some principals to make a, kind of push back a little and say, well, you know what, we're doing it a little different because our schools do, and they accept that. In some cases, the chiefs don't really know the difference between bilingual, dual language, transitional, et cetera, ESL. Sometimes it's just all the same thing. School-based budgeting, so it's been a few years now that the principals at the school manage the majority of the budget for the school, and our budget is based on the number of students that we have. And some of us are principals at large schools where there's a lot of funding and there isn't a lot of variance from one year to year. So many programs can remain from one year to the next. Other principals, like in the case where my school is at, it is in a neighborhood that's changing, And so when enrollment drops, it becomes very challenging to continue doing the type of programs we've been doing in the past, and sometimes we have to close positions, close programs, et cetera, because it's that funding formula is very difficult for schools that are not stable, that go up and down, every year. And then finally, co-curricular funding, so for after-school programs, for community schools, there had been a lot of funding for that in the past. Many of our schools here had taken advantage of community schools grants, which allow the schools to be open after school, all kinds of, enrichment activities, sports, everything, all kinds of parent programs. But the other thing is the state of Illinois has had a hard time getting a budget, and so many times those are the first programs that are cut. So the continued funding for community programs is something that's very important, especially in a dual language setting. So at this point, I'll pass it on to my colleague.
Buenos días. Marhaba, dzień dobry. Good morning. I'm Judy Saudi, principal of Edwards, which we're on a dual language, IB, and fine and performing art and community school. So now that you saw the challenges, how do we sustain our growth? So we want to continue to develop our dual language schools, the ones that right now exist. So last year we were around 12, and this year 5 more schools were added, and there's a whole process to add the schools. And we're also looking to expand to high schools. So now we have in place an application for high schools, and that way we could prove that all of our efforts can be seen in high school and then go towards the seal of biliteracy, which also exist in the state of Illinois. We're focusing more on our quality, and we're basing some of our sustainability on our current assessments to support not only the language of English, but also Spanish, which is what we are right now focusing on in our dual language schools. Funding has been an issue, so we're trying to look for funding for not only our coaches, but also our dual language coordinators, our bilingual coordinators, and also, like my colleague said, Tony, we are a big district. Our schools are different. Some of the schools are small. Some have like around 300 students. I serve as a school. My school has almost 1,600 students. So it's thanks to this group that we get together and we can share and help one another because our chiefs are different. I'm a school that doesn't have a chief because I'm an independent school principal, so I don't have a chief anymore. And so getting us together and sharing our needs is also a way that we're trying to sustain our programs and better our qualities, as also not only sharing our work between ourselves, but also to the district so they could learn what's going on. As a matter of fact, we have the support now of our Chief Education Officer, Janice Jackson, Dr. Jackson, and also Mr. Claypool. So they attend our meetings and we explain to them what our needs are and to help us and support us when we need that support that sometimes our chiefs don't understand. Also, policies. So we have developed our policies. We have a statement that we wrote together. And if you want to learn more about how these strong leaders, Dr. Soltero even wrote a chapter on us, so that's in her new book. So that describes what have been our challenges and what are we doing to be able to sustain our programs. We have many partners. We have, like they just mentioned, IRC, Illinois Resource Center, which was where Karen Beatman came out of. She was one of the teachers, and then she became a coach, and John Hilliard and Margot, and now they're nationwide recognized, but those were the people that started and helped us when we were only beginning with bilingual programs, and now we have also the national level, and we're really thankful to New Mexico. We visit schools here. Also with our state bilingual conference as part of the Illinois Association of Multilingual, Multicultural Education, which we are affiliated to NABE, so we have all of those partners. And we want to thank also David Rogers, which has been a partner for many, many years. And I thought he was from Chicago when I would see him every year in our state conference, but nope, he's from New Mexico, and he's been really, really instrumental in helping us also develop our programs. Addressing challenges. Our communication, like I said, with Dr. Jackson. She's our Chief Education Officer, and she has given us that support, even attending our meetings, even speaking in public, supporting our students. We also have partnered with local universities to host a bilingual college in dual language classrooms. You know, we do also, thanks to, she's the rock, Ms. Solano, so if you have any questions about the Office of Language and Culture Education, if it wasn't for Solano, we wouldn't be here because we have many changes in Chicago, and she's been there steady and for many years and helping us and answering a big hand. Yeah, everybody knows how great job she's done for Chicago. And she just turned 15 last night, so we're really happy. She's growing with us. We've been writing grants to secure additional funding. Just like our colleague said, the Chicago Community Trust Fund is in the last funding for us, so we were thankful to them that they paid our registration to come to this conference, as also years in the past that they have also supported us with our programs. We are trying to establish a uniform system for the dual language program evaluation. We have so many differences in our program, so we want to look for things that will glue us together, like, even something that some of our schools are doing, which is thinking maps, that is going to glue us together, and our teachers. Also, the parent partnerships. We have our parents in Chicago select principals. So the parents give me my contract. So it's really important to have the parent involvement so they can know what's going on. They approve our budgets of each local school. So, and the parents could dictate what we do with our schools. So having partners like we have community-based organizations like Amalia Pilsen Neighborhood, Frida Kahlo Community Organization, Latinos of the Southwest. Tepochcali has Tepochcali's Community Education Project. So these are community organizations that help train our parents. Also, NABE has been also instrumental. Illinois Resource Center has a parent summit every year in May, so we're part of that. Also, opportunities for teachers to create formative assessments in Spanish. So our teachers meet, thanks to, again, Solano, and they have the COCOMO, which is Common Core modules that they develop on units. Trying to also have the assessments in our Spanish language so we could prove that, and this is the first year we are doing this. So we're still norming it, and it was also a big challenge for us using the last links, and also looking for resources. So like, for example, I'm using the leveled readers from Fontes and Panel in Spanish and correlating that with our English, because I have at least 5 or 6 groups of each grade level, and we have 10 grade levels. We start dual language from preschool. So we need authentic material. As also partnering amongst ourselves and trying to help the new dual language schools that just joined us. And here we have the principals of some of those schools. We have Dolores Cup from Hurley. We have Sonia Caban from Mozart. We have also the AP from Azuela, another school that joined us. And we have the principal here from Moose, and also the principal from Spry, another school that also joined us. Those are the 5 schools that just joined us in our dual language schools. And we also want to address the challenge of the promotion policy. Some of the schools are wall-to-wall dual language, so if there's a Chinese student that comes in, and I have a lot of also Arab and Polish students, and they come in and they have to learn the Spanish, but then they're tested in English, and then the promotion policy is based on English. So that's something that's really challenging for us, and trying to sustain our programs has been also a challenge. And we also want our students to be able to acquire that seal of biliteracy that is really important. And now I'm going to leave you with Dr. Sonia Soltero for the Q&A.
Thank you very much. So we are kind of going on the road with this presentation. We presented at NABE, and what we realized at NABE is that people had a lot of questions. So we're leaving the next half an hour to actually have a Q&A. So I will be the moderator, and you will have to shout out questions, and I will be the Oprah. I will go around with, yes.